It's not just a card. It's a way of life. It's access to a world of more. It's not just for dreamers. It's for achievers. Introducing the new UBA Platinum MasterCard, a premium card for those who want more out of life. The UBA Platinum MasterCard offers you an amazing array of perks such as up to 15% off your Avis car rental, exclusive benefits at top hotels, airlines and destinations. Visit a UBA branch near you and request your UBA Platinum MasterCard. UBA, Africa's global bank.
Hello Ghana, hello our lovely audience. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us once again for the UBA Ghana Business Series. The business series is planned to help you to improve your business, to help you to get some nuggets that will help you to enhance your business, grow, and become more influential than you are. Help you to acquire more customers for your business and improve your revenue lines. Over the last couple of series, we've had the CEO of MTN Ghana, Selim, speaking to us. We've had Dr. Inchi talking to us about our people issues are very important in any business. We had Nasser Bwedi last month engaging us on how to acquire new customer base for our businesses. Now, today we have a very exciting topic for you. We are going to look at how we can attract funding for our businesses. Wow. Funding for any business is critical, and we know that for SMEs, they play a very important part of any economy, and by contributing, and if they represent about 90% of all businesses and they employ over 50% of all employed people worldwide, then we know the value of the SME space. And we do know, of course, that funding is a key role to the sustainability of any business. It helps us to innovate, to be efficient, to create more jobs, to expand our operations, and it helps us to now bring in more people. We can attract new customers. We definitely will grow our profit margins, and we are successful. So funding is a very important topic, and we are going to try to look at that. We would explore some of the challenges that SMEs face, and our speaker would help us to address them. So who do we have to facilitate our session today? Our speaker for today is Benjamin Kofi Quansah. Benjamin Kofi Quansah is a certified Benjamin is a certified grants management specialist, and he has wealth of experience spanning over 15 years in this business. He's an international award-winning grants management specialist, and he's very passionate about his work and how he helps people because he understands federal grant management rules and regulations. He's a leadership coach as well, and brings a lot of experiences in helping individuals, businesses, business leaders to build strategies that helps them to move to the next level and to expand their leadership styles and grow their businesses. His clients have constantly commended him for the results-driven approach that he uses for his training or his sessions, and he's renowned globally for what he does. In 2017, he was awarded he received the U.S. National Grants Management Association prestigious Newton Award. So he's no mean person to facilitate our sessions today. As I said, he has over 15 years working experience, having worked for global brands, including the Crown Agents. He also works as a financial management and resource mobilization specialist or grants manager for Deloitte, Ghana. He's also a seed consultant for Stanford Seed, working remotely as a business consultant with seed transformational network companies to develop customized and creative business solutions. How did he become a business leader or a leadership coach? He is a certified trainer and coach and speaks because it's been certified by John Maxwell, the certified leadership guru that we probably many of us know about. The certified global leadership assessment coach, certified grants manager specialist, a chartered global investment analyst, diversity and inclusion license trainer. Wow, Ben, I didn't know some of these things. Very revealing. I mean, he has wealth of experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure by hearing the background of the person we have, you know that we have no mean person to deliver on how SMEs can access funding for their businesses. I'd like to encourage you to drop your questions, send us your comments, and we will bring them to Ben so he can address them for you. Benjamin, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Henry, and thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. So, Ben has a presentation. We're going to take a presentation from Ben. We will look at them as we go on. And I encourage you, like I said, please send in your questions, send in your comments, and identify yourself. Please add your name and where you are reaching us from when you post the question, so that I'll put it to Ben. So, Ben, how can SMEs access funding for their businesses?
Thank you. So in your intro, you indicated the role that SMEs play in any economy. I mean, all governments know the importance of SMEs. SMEs driving economic growth and sustainability. SMEs creating employment. And if they are going to be able to create employment, they are going to be able to drive the economy and sustain growth, they need funding. And that's why we are here this morning, to get to understand how SMEs can have access to funding. How do they position themselves? Because the funding is not going to come to us automatically. We need to go out there and look for the funding. So my presentation is going to address this very important question that you have asked. So if you would permit me, I would quickly share my screen and then my slides. Then some of these questions would be answered.
Yes, thank you, Ben. So please, yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
You have the floor.
So good morning, everyone. We're looking at how SMEs can access funding for their business. And we all know the importance of funding, what funding can do for any business. If the business is going to survive, it needs money. How do we get the money? Where do we get the money from? So I'm going to walk you through some stages, how we can position ourselves so we can attract the right kind of funding. Sometimes we don't even know where to look for. This presentation is going to give you a list of funders that you can reach out to. So I'm going to walk you through a brief introduction. And Henry did say that SMEs represent about 90% of businesses. And that is the research by the World Bank and other institutions that have done the same research, come up with the same findings. SMEs play a very key role in any economy. If you take the UK, for example, they account for almost 99.9% of the business population in the UK, and they employ millions of people. So if governments know the importance of SMEs, how come that SMEs still struggle to access funds? Are we going to wait for government to always do things for us? Or we will step out of our comfort zones and then begin to look for where the funding is, attract those funds, and then help us to develop our capacities, help us to determine the direction of our various businesses. Yes, SMEs play a very critical role in developing economies. Now, we want to be able to initiate and innovate, but we cannot do that without funding. We want to improve efficiency. We want to expand the scope of our operations. We want to be able to create jobs. How do we do that? We lack access to funding. What challenges are there? How can we overcome these challenges? At the end of the session, like I indicated, I'm going to direct you to funding opportunities, and whatever list I'm going to give you is not exhaustive. I will encourage you as I begin to show those links, if it is possible for you to have a screenshot so you don't miss out on the links. Please do. So we'll look at an overview and then the challenges that SMEs face, how SMEs can overcome these challenges, and then how they can have access to funding. So what is an SME? The definition of an SME will depend on the environment within which the SME finds itself. Is it in a developed economy or a developing economy? So the environment determines what size or what criteria or what the threshold should be. And normally we use turnover and the number of employees. And sometimes we use the capital employed by the SME. So in developed economies, for example, you're looking at a turnover of less than $50 million. Some look at between 50 and then $70 million. In Africa, we're looking at less than $2.5 million on average. Some look at it between 3 million and then $5 million. You look at the number of employees, and that is also used as a criteria, as a threshold for determining what an SME is. Less than 250 employees. Others go further to break it down into micro, where you have 1 to 9 employees, that's less than 10. Small, where you have less than 50. And then medium, where you have between 50 and 249 employees. Now, how many SMEs do we have across the region? On your screen, you see the spread. In North America, you see the numbers. In the Middle East and North Africa, you see the numbers. In East Asia and the Pacific, the numbers are there. Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, the numbers are there. And I need to tell you that these large numbers you see on the screen are those that are formally registered. We all know that there are a lot of businesses that are not registered. So even if we decide to add the unregistered ones, it means the numbers are going to go up. And you have these numbers operating as SMEs. That should tell you how solid the space is and how important the SME space is, and the need for them to get the needed support to be able to drive economic growth, stability, and sustainability. Now, these numbers were gotten from 176 economies, and they are numbers as of 2019. What is the problem? Now, a study was undertaken, and this study found out that 40% of SMEs in Africa identified the primary factor constraining their growth to be finance. They do not have access to finance. Some estimates have even put the current funding gap at more than $140 billion. What's the problem? What are the challenges? Are SMEs indeed facing any challenges? Yes, So we'll look at a few of the challenges. The focus of my presentation not do much on the challenges, because at the end of the day, it is the money we need to be able to. Where do we find the money? So it's going to look at some of the challenges that SMEs face. So I'll address the key ones, and before into that, there was this report that was issued by London Stock in 2018, and the report details the issues faced by SMEs with financing in Africa. But identified some of these key challenges. Lack of awareness of the variety of financing available to SMEs to support their growth. We feel that we are unable to do certain things, unable to access finance, not because the finance is not available. It's because we are aware of the options available to us. Once you lack awareness of the variety of financing options, you always go about saying, I don't access finance. So they want to create awareness of the variety of financing options. So at the end of the session, where options should be your best friend. So SMEs lack awareness. How do we overcome this challenge? The second key challenge I want to talk about is low capacity and the need for upskilling training. Capacity is very, very important. Who would want to give if the person knows that not be able to manage the fund that is made available to you? Who would want to invest in your business if the person or investor knows that you have the knowledge, the business leadership skills, and financial management skills, be able to manage whatever funding that is available? If I want to buy tomatoes, for example, I go to where I get tomatoes. I go to office environment where I know there's no tomatoes. So if I want to invest in a particular SME, I would want to go to an environment where I find those SMEs. And here I'm looking at hubs or incubators, where you have SMEs going training, their capacity is built in the area of financial management, in the area of leadership, in the area of cash flow. They and the business of business is where I would go to, because I have the confidence as an investor that this that belongs to this hub of data has been trained. And you don't join an incubator. There are certain requirements that you have to go through. You present your case or idea, go through process. So if an investor and I want to invest in your business, I would want to make sure that you have all the skills. You have to where can I find you? If you're part of a network, of a system, I want to come in that to money or business. So capacity accounted for inability to attract funding. How do we scale? How do we build capacity? We'll address that. The other key challenge, and we've indicated the importance of SMEs in driving sustainability. All governments know that if SMEs accounting for about 90% of businesses, every should be aided the development of SMEs. But then the report found out that the absence of government-led SME strategy to develop the ecosystem. It's not to say that government is not supporting SMEs. Government is something. It can be scaled up. Did you lose me? So having a policy to drive the direction of SMEs. So these are the key challenges: lack of awareness of financing options, lack of capacity, and then absence of government SME strategy to develop the ecosystem. So what I'm going to do is to take each of these challenges and then dissect. So if you take lack of awareness of financing options, what are we talking about? Henry, I just want to find out if I'm still on.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm waiting for you to
good.
finish the challenges, and then we'll go ahead. So we can still hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you. So lack of awareness of financing options. So traditionally, SMEs have had to rely on short-term debt to fund their operations, going for bank loans, which normally comes with high interest rates. And sometimes you have prohibitive collateral requirements. And those collateral requirements are prohibitive because it takes so many years for one to recover bad loans. So we have always tended to rely on short-term debt. And we get the impression that bank loans are the only way out for us as SMEs. We'll explore various options. The other challenge is the capacity issue. And the capacity is as a result of the experience that we lack, the knowledge that we lack. Now, I've indicated that any investor who wants to invest in you as an SME will be interested in your capacity to manage the investments. Do you have that capacity? These are some of the capacities that have been identified. SMEs sometimes fear to lose control. They want to be 100% in charge. They want 100% ownership. They don't want to dilute ownership by bringing another person on board. So one is the fear of control loss. And with this, a major African investor had this comment to make, that entrepreneurs would rather own 100% of one than 10% of 100. We don't want to dilute our ownership. We want to be in charge. But then if we dilute the ownership and we bring people on board, they are bringing in the money to support our growth. They are bringing in investment to help us grow in whichever direction I want to go. So loss of control is one capacity gap that has been identified. You look at some of these SMEs and they don't even have boards. There's no accountability, no structures in place to ensure that their independent audits come to remuneration decisions, and decisions are made just anyhow. There's a governance problem, corporate governance problem. And SMEs are unwilling to accept external investment and bring in new partners. They fear that they are going to relinquish their control.
Ben, you may need to go back a couple of like a minute back. We lost you a bit. So from the 3 challenges, you need to take us back on that a bit.
Okay. So with the 3 challenges, I was talking about awareness of financing options. And we have tended to rely on short-term debt as the only viable option. Bank loans. And these bank loans normally come with high interest rates. Not to talk of the collateral requirements. And those collateral requirements are as a result of the difficulty in recovering bad loans. Then I came to lack of capacity, and I explained that. So what I'm trying to do now is to specifically identify some of the capacity gaps. Some of the gaps. Remember, we are looking at how SMEs can attract funding. You want people to come and invest in your business. If they are coming in, it means they want a stake, maybe 10% or 5%. Are you ready, willing to relinquish that control? So what we are saying is that the fear of control loss has led to many SMEs not wanting or unwilling to accept external investment or bringing in new partners because they feel that it's their business.
Okay, I think we lost Ben in a bit. The network has not been very stable. We're getting Ben back on and continue the session shortly. But we are talking about SMEs, how SMEs can access funding for their businesses. And we have Benjamin Kofi Quansah, who is taking us through this. We've been looking at some of the challenges of SMEs, how where funding is available, funding sources, and what we can do to secure these funds. We do know, like I mentioned earlier, let me reset and recap by saying that SMEs represent 90% of all businesses globally, and they also account for 50% of all employment in the world. We understand that funding to SMEs play an important role because it helps in their ability to initiate, innovate, improve efficiency, expand their scope and their operations. They're able to create more jobs, and they contribute to the growth and development of many economics globally. And in a particular area where we have COVID-19 lurking around now, we do know that the SME guys are very important. The SME businesses are very important in helping most economies to recover and experience growth, because there were a decline in growth for many businesses. Now, majority of SMEs, as we know, though they have the potential for growth and can help to improve these, do not have they lack the funding to help them to expand and to deliver on the growth that we talk about. And therefore, the UBA Business Series this morning is looking at how SMEs can access funding to help them to deliver on this potential that we all recognize that they have. But what are really the challenges that SMEs really face? And can these be overcome? Can these challenges be overcome? Yes, we believe so. And therefore, we're putting this together to help us to explore the opportunities that exist for SMEs. And we're hopeful that by the end of the presentation today from Benjamin Kofi, we will be able to have answers and solutions that will help us to explore other areas other than just debt, but that we can get some level of equity, we can get some level of grants and others that will help our businesses to deliver or to grow and flourish. Therefore, we will be joined by Benjamin is back with us. Ben, we lost you there in a bit. So yes, if your microphone is muted, I can see you are talking, but your microphone is muted.
Is it better?
Yes, I can hear you now. So
Okay.
do remember to send us your questions. Drop your questions in the Q&A session, the chat session. We'll put these questions before Benjamin Kofi Quansah, who will look at them. So Ben, yes, let's continue with the presentation.
Please, are you still seeing my screen?
I'm pulling it up. It's not showing yet. We're pulling your screen up shortly. You can also share from. Yes, we can see you now. So yes.
Okay. All right. So I was talking about lack of transparency. Which investor would want to invest in your business if there's no transparency, if there's no trust? Trust is key. And the report by the London Stock Exchange identified that there's no anti-bribery safeguards for the operating and financing processes of SMEs. Those processes that preserve the integrity and transparency of the funds that they manage. And if you don't have any bribery and corruption policy, it becomes difficult, and that can prevent you from accessing the funds. Remember, capacity is very, very key. If you don't have the capacity to manage the fund, and it's one of the key variables that any investor would look at. Financial reporting too is very critical, and most of these NGOs have inaccurate records. Some don't even keep the records at all. And even if they keep the records, they are very inaccurate. Perhaps they don't have access to financial education. Perhaps they're unable to afford the services of quality personnel who can handle their financials for them. So financial reporting becomes a critical issue. Training, capacity building, education and financial management will be very key here. And if you realize that you're unable to afford the services of a professional accountant who can do the job well for you, you can rely on other opportunities like the Stanford Seed. They provide opportunities for consultants to volunteer and then help businesses that are struggling. And they don't pay the consultants, but you get quality service. You can approach UBA for advice, anything, then they will be on standby to provide whatever kind of support you're looking for. So financial reporting is key to you getting access. Now, I had a client that I worked with, and they've been in business for more than 10 years. And to my amazement, all these 10 years, they didn't have a vision statement. If you don't have a vision statement, how do you determine your direction? Which way are you going? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? So you just be there doing things anyhow. Lack of strategic vision contributes immensely to SMEs not being able to access funds. Because before I come in as an investor, I need to know or have a sense of direction as to where you're going. Then I can come along. But I come and you have no sense of direction. You're unable to tell me what your vision is. You don't have a strategy. Then you wouldn't have any growth strategy plan. Why would I want to invest in your business? So these are some of the capacity gaps. The list is not exhaustive. But like I said, we can continue to talk about the problems. At the end of the day, where do we get the money? But before you even get access to the money, you need to position yourself, prepare for the money. The funds will not come to you automatically. You need to go out there and look for it. And as you go out there, it will involve preparation, personal preparation, prepare as an organization, work on your knowledge, skills, and everything. The next one is absence of government SME strategy to develop the ecosystem. So here, if you look at the tax regime, for example, it doesn't favor SMEs. In fact, in one African country, I don't want to mention the name of the country, the SME sector revealed that some startups had paid taxes since their incorporation and did not draw any tax benefit from the government. This is a startup not generating any huge revenue. So where are the tax reliefs? So if we can have government have an SME strategy as part of government policy, it will go a long way to position SMEs to access funding. And sometimes too, you look at administrative factors. How long does it take to set up an SME? Look at the World Bank report on ease of doing business in Africa, and you see where most of these African countries or economies are positioned. We need to make things flexible for our SMEs. If we strongly believe that SMEs drive economic growth and sustainability. So, how do we overcome these challenges? What you do is to identify what the challenges are.
How do you overcome these challenges? The question Benjamin has posed. Benjamin, sorry. How do you overcome these challenges is the question that Ben has posed. And very soon he'll be diving into the responses on how to overcome these challenges. I wish to remind you that you're on the UBA Business Series, the fourth in the series, and we are speaking, or this morning, Benjamin Kofi Quansah, who's a certified grants manager, is the one facilitating or helping us to understand how to access funding for SMEs. If you have any questions thus far as we've come along, please drop it in the chat session. We'll bring it up to Ben to answer these questions for us. And please remember to add your name and your location when you put up a question. So Ben, how do we overcome these challenges?
So first of all, the issue of capacity is very key. So one key variable or factor is implementing internationally recognized capacity building programs for SMEs. And I see most of these donor agencies doing it. Governments are also doing it. So for example, we could have an SME hub, which serves as a platform for SMEs and entrepreneurs to acquire knowledge, learn business best practices, obtain essential information about business startup, market access, how they can develop their human capital, how they can manage their finances, know about the industry, and then various other aspects of the business. Access to these information will help SMEs to build their capacity. So the issue of having SME hubs will go a long way to help. And then also creating the enabling environment for SMEs, which will then raise their visibility and awareness of leading African private businesses. And at the end of the session, I'm going to show you some of the links, some of the opportunities that you can take advantage of, which would give you that visibility and awareness. Government policies, like I said, should support and aid SME development. I've spoken about the tax regime and so on and so forth. So incentives could be provided to, cushion the SMEs a bit when it comes to tax liabilities and so on. So these are some of the challenges, some of the ways that we can overcome the challenges facing SMEs. Now, I'm interested in how we can access funding. Let's say we've overcome all these challenges. We've built our capacity. We've positioned ourselves in such a way that we're able to attract investors. Government has created an enabling environment for us. Where do we go to get the money? So my next slide will look at access. Without the money, there's very little we can do. Without the money, we can't innovate, we can't improve efficiency, we cannot grow, we cannot create the jobs we need, we cannot drive economic growth, we cannot sustain ourselves. So how do we get the money? So I'm looking at financing options. Remember, one of the challenges we said, lack of awareness of financing options. And we tend to depend so much on bank loans, which is debt financing, which comes with its own requirements and the high interest rates and so on. Today, my focus is on equity financing and then grant funding. And grant funding appears to be an area that is not really tapped. With equity financing, you could get individual investors coming in, such as angel investors. You could have venture capitalists, or you could decide to. You could decide to, sell your shares publicly. And you talk about angel investors, and you're looking at wealthy individuals or groups of wealthy individuals who invest their own money into companies. Some banks, for example, use asset financing. So you want to acquire an asset, let's say machinery. They would want you to pay something, contribute something, then they will contribute the rest. So for example, they may say, yes, if you want us to fund this particular activity, assets, machinery, equipment, or whatever that you want to buy, contribute 30%. We will contribute 70%. That is an option that we can look at. So equity financing, debt financing, grant funding. Now, with grant funding, if you take debt financing, for example, you have to pay back. With equity financing, you relinquish part of your ownership or control. So you give out, let's say 10% or 20%, and you own 80%. With grant funding, you don't pay back. But there are certain requirements that you need to meet. The funder will be interested in your impact. Not just because you exist as a business, you're an SME, so let me come in and support. You should be able to demonstrate something, demonstrate the impact, that if I give you the grant funding, how would you be able to manage it? Would you be able to achieve the results that you said you would achieve? So just an example of equity financing, and I want to explain this in very simple terms. It's a matter of selling a stake in your business in return for cash. So what you do is, assuming the value of your business is, let's say, $150,000, you need to expand. You need money to expand the scope of your operations. Where are you going to get the money from? So you approach an investor, or you belong to a hub, an SME hub. An investor approaches, and the hub realizes that you have what the investor is looking for. So you agree, okay, I'm ready to give up 10% of my stake. 10% of the value of the business will be 15,000. So the investor takes up 10%. You receive your 15,000. you have the money you need to be able to expand the scope of your operations. But now, you no longer own 90% of the business. You no longer own 100% of the business. You own 90%. Another person or other persons own 10%. Now, if you look at Rwanda, for example, their stock exchange in 2014 started what we call the small and medium enterprise market segment. And that was to enable SMEs to tap into the capital market and raise long-term funds to grow their businesses. Because the understanding was that the capital markets found SMEs to be too risky and they were not ready to provide long-term financing. So that opportunity was provided, and I see that other African countries have followed suit, like Nigeria has done that, Kenya has done that, South Africa too has done that, creating that opportunity in that stock exchange so SMEs can have access to long-term finance. Now, with grant funding, we said that grant funding, or when you are getting grant or receiving a grant, you don't have to pay back. The fact that you don't have to pay back doesn't also mean it is free money. You work for it. You don't just get up and go in for the grant. You applied for the grant because you said you're going to do A, B, C. The funder will be interested in you doing exactly what you said when you are applying for the grant. So you talk about grant funding, and it's also a form of financial assistance, just that you don't pay back. Now, with grant funding, your objectives would have to align with the funder's objectives. The funder is moving in a certain direction, looking for objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, has a mission to accomplish. You need to make sure that your mission or your objective aligns with that of the funder before you even go about applying for the funding. And you also need to understand the eligibility requirements. Just because grant funding is available doesn't mean you just get up and apply for it. Are you eligible? Eligibility, for example, can look at the environment. Is it applicable for those in Africa or outside of Africa? You need to find out. Do you even qualify in the first place? Do your objectives meet that of the funder? These are questions that you need to ask yourself. The quality of your application is also very, very important because it is competitive. How do you secure competitive grant funds? The grant funding you are looking for, other businesses, other SMEs are looking for the same thing. So the best application wins the day. So the quality of your application is very, very critical. And the grant funder would also be interested in capacity once again, and whether you have the ability to implement all requirements of the grants, requirements that are imposed on the SMEs. So with equity financing or grant funding or any other form of funding, are there any opportunities? Where do we go to? How do we gain access to the fund? Remember, we said there's lack of awareness. But today, that awareness will be raised and we'll know where to get the money. So like I indicated, if it's possible for you to do a screenshot of what I'm going to share, please do. So what funding opportunities are there? So the next slide is going to look at the list of funding opportunities. The first one that I'm talking about is the Savannah Fund. This is a startup SME grant to African entrepreneurs. So I've provided the link. Remember, your objectives would have to align with that of the funder. So when you go in there and you realize that the requirements that this fund is asking for, you fit in, then you approach. The fund will not come to you automatically. You have to go out there and look for it. So the link is provided, Savannah Fund, and this is for startup SME grants to African entrepreneurs. Then we have the London Foundation. They provide risk capital, they provide grants, they provide technical assistance too. But their focus is on social enterprises, social organizations. So what you need to ask yourself is my organization a social organization? If the answer is yes, then you can approach them through the email that has been provided there. And then we have MEST Africa Challenge, and this is a business grant for ICT entrepreneurs. So if you're not operating in the ICT space, you don't go in that direction. Your objective would have to align with the objective of the funder. And for those operating in the ICT space, the website is there. So when you go there, it will tell you all the requirements that is needed, the documents that you need to submit, if there's a need for you to submit a concept note or business plan, everything is there. You are directed as to what you should do. And then we have Ashden International Awards for Entrepreneurs in Developing Countries. And sometimes you need to participate in some of these awards, because once you win or you even participate, you get the exposure. You need that visibility. Somebody needs to know you are there for the person to contribute into your business. And this one focuses on innovative businesses that contribute to the creation of sustainable energy systems. So if you're SME, it's about sustainable energy. This is an area that you need to look at, but the funding available is $20,000. So you can just Google their name and you'd have access to whatever link that has been made available and put in your application. But remember, the quality of your application is very, very important. And then we have Growing Finance or Growing Grants. They provide SME loans to support growing businesses. It's a loan. They may charge interest, but the interest will not be like the interest that, for example, the bank may charge you. But the fact is that they provide SME loans to support growing businesses. They are a bit flexible. Then the loans range from $100,000 to $1.5. They provide business support as well, expert advice, guidance, help you if you lack capacity in the area of financial management. They will provide that capacity. If you lack capacity in the area of leadership or in the area of cash flow or whatever area you lack capacity, apart from giving you the funding, you are provided that expert advice. And their website is also provided. I've indicated it there. And then we have GIZ, the Scaling Digital Agriculture Innovation Program. And this is referred to as Investment Readiness Program 2022. So if you look at your SME, your mission, vision, strategy, and you realize you operate in the agri-tech or food tech space, this is a wonderful opportunity for you. It's a project implemented by GIZ on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation. And the whole idea is to support African startups. So this is currently ongoing, and application deadline is 31st of August 2021. So you could take advantage of this opportunity if you operate in this space. I've provided a link. It's there. If it's possible for you to do a screenshot, please go ahead and do it. But if you operate in this space, you may have to contact them. And then, go to the website and then put in the application. Don't wait until the very last minute. And then we have Stellenbosch University, South Africa. They have the launch lab. So this is a science idea, and then startup showcase. So this one too is looking at application being submitted before the 29th of August. So they are looking at two things. Do you have a business idea, maybe an idea with a commercial potential? So you need to be able to demonstrate that potential. Or maybe you have an existing business that is doing amazing stuff. You may want to, again, check their website, know exactly what the requirements are, and then if you operate in that space, you put in your application. And then we have GSA Africa. So I did indicate that if there's any award scheme, participate. Your participation alone gives you that visibility and credibility. And with this, the deadline is 30th September 2021. But what are they looking at? So this is a screen that is showing exactly what they are into and which regions they are operating in. So if you go to their website, you will know whether your region is there. If you are in Ghana or in Ethiopia or wherever you are, you need to go to the website and you find out if you are in there. But the issue is that once you participate, you have increased visibility. They've indicated it there. You have access to global networks. You have market access. So it means you have access to the market, be able to match you to donors or funders or investors. You're able to access top talent. You have world-class solutions. You have access to funding opportunities. If you don't get in there, how would you know there are other funding opportunities available? They will grant you access to all these things. And these are the categories that they are looking at. So I'm sure you can see that on the screen. So I'm not going to go through all that. So you have that agri-tech, commerce tech, women in tech, health tech, industrial tech. So you need to find out, and then best accelerator or incubator program, find out if your SME is captured in there, and then approach. The link is provided. So the list is not exhaustive. If you look at the current screen, I've provided another link which will give you access to 25 or so agencies that fund SMEs. They provide grants. The second link gives a list of more than 100 donors or funders providing opportunities for SMEs, for entrepreneurs, for businesses in the form of grants, loans, or equity financing. More than 100. You would definitely find your own in there. And when you go to the website, the list is provided. Their contact details are also provided. So all you need to do is, once you identify that your objective aligns with theirs, you approach. You don't wait for them to approach. You have to approach because you are looking for the money. But before you approach, position yourself. Make sure your capacity is built. You have the quality that is required of you to be able to manage the grant. Your management systems are working, you have the financial knowledge, the business knowledge, and everything that you need to have to be able to manage the grant or the fund or whatever is made available. As I conclude, there are a few things that I want to bring to your attention. Remember the first challenge we identified: awareness, lack of awareness of financing options. Now you know that there are opportunities out there. What we need to do is to look for those opportunities. If you search, you will find. So, my first concluding statement is there's so much information out there. There's information on grants, there's information on funding, whatever, there's information available. Yours is to search. If you search one and you didn't find, or you don't find, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If you apply for a grant and you don't get it for that particular application, it doesn't mean you will never get it. Continue doing it. It is competitive. You want to secure competitive grants, competitive funding. You keep on positioning yourself in such a way that at a point you now be ready to receive the grant. So there's so much information out there. You search, you'll find. The second concluding statement I want to make is there are dollars to support almost any endeavor. There are investors, just like you being a buyer, you're looking for something to buy. So investors are also looking for SMEs to invest in. But they are not going to invest in you simply because you're an SME. You need to stand out from the crowd, position yourself in such a way that they would have value for money on their investment. So there are dollars to support almost any endeavor, but it has to have a measurable impact. My third concluding statement: I want us to move away from the business as usual way of doing things. Funders, investors, donors are looking for innovation, creativity. What makes your idea stand out? So let's always think business unusual, thinking outside the box, an idea that will catch the attention of everyone, innovative idea. So much information out there, we can always get the funding. Not getting it today doesn't mean you won't get it at all. You will get. There are dollars to support almost any endeavor and think business unusual. But then there's a caution. But remember something. What do I want you to remember? What I want you to remember is funders are not interested in your existence. That you exist as an SME, so let's go fund it. No. Here is what somebody said. People don't want to fund your existence. They want to fund your impact. What is your impact? What results do you want to show for anybody, any investor, to want to invest in your business? Thank you for joining us today.
And on that Beth Podolsky note, thank you very much, Benjamin Kofi Quansah, for that excellent presentation. Wow, so much information and opportunities for funding. I've got a couple of questions to put to you, though, Benjamin, and if you will. Would you want me to take one or two and answer them together, or you want us to do one after the other?
Okay, let's do one after the other.
Okay, so the first question, which comes from my one listening to us from Accra, is that how do you arrive at the percentage ownership to give out for equity financing? So if you get someone who is coming in for equity financing, how do you determine that based on what the person is bringing, how much equity of the business, what percentage of the business should you cede to this person who is bringing in equity funding?
Okay. So from my perspective, it's my business. I have 100% control. So I determine the percentage that I want to cede based on what the person is coming to, or the role the person is coming to play in the business. If I realize that the role will be very strategic and will contribute to the survival of the business, and the person is more than ready to do anything to make sure the business succeed, the two of us will sit and agree on what the percentages should be. And at the end of the day, it should be a win-win situation. I've seen watched programs where the investor has proposed a certain percentage and the owner had rejected a percentage because he or she felt it didn't work out for him. So ended up losing the investment. So I'm thinking that we could always reach a compromise. If I'm asking for 10% and you feel you could give me only 5%, and the money you are providing is so important for the survival of the business, and we can negotiate and reach a deal at, let's say, 7%, we could go ahead and do that. It's normally an agreement between the two parties and the scale that is being brought to the table.
Okay, thank you very much, Benjamin. The next question talks about, we're going to talk about financing and getting funding, but the next question says that many SMEs are not able to manage their finances properly, which also affects their businesses and their ability to attract funding. How will you advise these businesses and what should they do to help improve on their finances?
Okay, thank you. So I spoke about capacity building. Some of these NGOs don't have the capacity to manage the funds, so they need training. Apart from the training, they need to engage quality professionals who can help them do the work. In some cases, they are unable to offer the services of these professionals. So that's why I indicated that there are institutions, organizations that make life easier for these SMEs, like Stanford Seed Transformation Network. They want to support SMEs who cannot afford the services of consultants. I'm a seed consultant there, and I volunteer to help some of these SMEs. I don't get paid for that. But if you look at the nature of the service that I'm providing, it will be difficult for the SMEs to afford the service. So what do? They have to rely on some of these institutions like Stanford Seed, who would then link them to the right consultants that will help them do the job. So capacity building is key, and then taking advantage of some of these opportunities. And for example, you are here today on the UBA Business Series. It's part of the capacity building. Other sessions will come and you'll be told or taught what you should do to manage your business. Just because it is free doesn't mean there's no value in it. Value everything, every opportunity that comes your way. Build your capacity. Attend trainings. If it's free or you have to pay, personal development comes with a cost. Invest in training, and that will be one of the best investments you can ever make. If you invest in training, you build your capacity, you'll be able to overcome some of these challenges in the area of managing finances.
Okay, Benjamin, so a bit of clarity on the question from my one. It comes back to say that, so he wants to understand how he can undertake a valuation of his business, or value the business to determine the percentage to give out. Because when you talk about 5%, 10%, a lot of the time we start businesses, they are doing well, but we really don't understand or don't know how to put a value to the various capital we're putting into the business. So how can one value his business to understand what percentage to give out to anyone or any grant person who is coming in or equity financing person?
So there are various ways or methods you can use to value your business. For example, you could look at the assets you have in the business. In other words, the asset method. So how many assets do you have in the business? Let's say you have plant and equipment valued at $10,000. You have motor vehicle valued at $15,000. You have any other assets. Put all those assets together. What are the claims on the assets? And by claims on the assets, I'm looking at your liability. So let's assume that the total value of all your assets is, let's say, $20,000. And the claims on your assets is worth $2,000. In other words, your liability. So if I take my $2,000 from the $20,000, I'll be left with $18,000. If I'm using the net asset method to value my business, then the value of my business is $18,000. I could also look at the number of shares I have in the business, and then what is the price per share? So if I multiply the number of shares by the price per share, I have the market value of my business. I could also decide to use the present value and net present value methods to value my business using discounting factors. If I invested 15,000 and the value of the 15,000 is, let's say, 20,000 in 5 years' time. If I want to discount to present value terms, what would it be? So these are technical areas. Just explaining by way of phone or Microsoft Teams will not get you the full understanding. There are ways we calculate the value of the business. And once we know the value of the business, based on what contribution each person is bringing to the table, we can determine the percentages. So I don't know if the person can still reach out if he still doesn't get it clear, because it's quite technical and we can help him address this better.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. And we'll be sharing your some details to audience pretty soon, so they can contact you for further needs. But there's another question that says that what would these grant funding institutions seek to benefit from your business? Why would they want to put money in your business? What would they seek to gain or benefit from putting funding in your business?
Okay, thank you. So these funders are operating in our various countries, and take the United States, for example, or the UK government. They are interested in helping the developing countries so they can rise up from maybe poverty or whatever situation they find themselves in. They have a responsibility towards their government to support the various developing governments. Now, the benefit they are getting is that at the end of the day, they will be ranked in terms of whatever support they've provided to the various economies. Part of their, should I say, corporate social responsibility. And performance of any business shouldn't be tied to only the financials. You may be doing well financially, but there may be other areas that you are not doing well. So the corporate social responsibility aspect, helping humanity, are ways that you can equally measure your performance. You want to make an impact in the lives of people. So at the end of the day, you leave a legacy. So it is that mindset that pushes them to want to help people, move them from a lower level to a higher level. And they're helping these businesses because they know the role they play in driving economic growth. If all the world economies are doing well, the world will be a better place. Nobody will die of hunger. So that is the mindset behind they wanting to support your business, especially in the area of grant funding, because they're not going to take the money back, but they want you to make an impact in the lives of the people in the community. If the community is impacted, everybody wins. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Benjamin. There's another question that I'll put to you. Okay, so it says, how can this training reach the market women out there who cannot reach or access Microsoft Teams? And I can answer this by saying that just keep watching this space.
Harry,
UBA is moving out to the market with these series. Our SME department is putting in place some things to ensure that we can reach many more people than what we are doing here on Microsoft Teams now. So we will definitely ensure that the people who need this information get access to them. But the next question that I would like you to respond to is, what are the top 3 boxes one needs to think before moving into the SME sector in order not to face financial difficulties? In other words, what should they do before they set out so that they do not face financial difficulties?
It is critical for you to answer the question why. Why are you doing what you want to do? Or why do you want to do what you claim you want to do? Once you establish your why, passion then drives you. And it is the passion, that kind of passion that is driving you, that will sustain you, that will help you survive in days of adversity. So for me, number one thing is establish your why you want to do what you are doing. Once you've established your why, what resources do I need? And the resources is not limited to finance, because sometimes we want to wait for the money before we start. You can start your business without the money. Here's why. You have the skill. Start with what you have. If the skill means you can put some few people together and train them even for free, just to establish your presence on the market, that's what you have at the moment. So go ahead and do it. So your passion, resources, which could be financial, it could be human resource, the target market, they're all resources. Once you have all these things, you can now begin to craft a vision and strategy for your business, and then how best you can position yourself to, serve the needs of the market. My top 3 would be you having the passion, and then getting the resources, and then coming up with a strategy, which then will define a path for you. If those things are clear, it means you've laid the foundation for success. Otherwise, you start, and the little difficulty, you are giving up, because there's nothing that is driving you towards your vision or your dream. These are my top 3.
Okay, thank you. And the final, before we're going to wrap and close, is what would be the best advice? So if I've tried SME or ventured into business before and I failed or I didn't do well because of funding, what will be your advice when I'm setting up again? I know these would apply to the questions you answered earlier, but if there's something else you want to add to this time, it's not somebody who is venturing for the first time. I've been there before. Things didn't work out because I didn't plan my funding well, but I want to go back again. Is there something specific you would like me to consider in venturing into a new area, going back into business again?
Okay, so he said he didn't plan his funding well. So it means that he knew why he got out of business. So then it means that a very good funding strategy is important. And we could help him design a funding strategy so he's clear in his mind as to how to get the funding. Because sometimes we just sit back and then we are lamenting, why am I not getting funding? Why are people not supporting me? We play the victim. Instead of asking why you are not being supported, why don't you change the question into, what might I do to attract funding? The moment you change the question from why am I not getting funding into what might I do to attract funding, it sets in motion your creative ability and you begin to come up with your ideas. So sit down, talk to yourself, put your ideas on paper. What made you get out of the business? What do I want to do now? Based on what I want to do now, what do I need? Put it on paper. You can share with an accountability partner, somebody who holds you accountable, who is interested in your growth, your personal growth or business growth or whatever. Share so that the person will always keep you in check. That is what I want to add. So like I indicated, if further support, advice is needed, the person can always get back to UBA and would help him or her out.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for that. If you're into farming, can you access funding as a farmer or get funding into your farms?
Yeah, thank you. Now, donors are now shifting into agri-business, and currently the project that I'm working on or managing has to do with agribusiness. It's an important area, a key area for the donor community now. So I'll say a big yes, you can access funding for your farming business. And the links that I provided, the one that I said you have more than 100 donors. When you just take your time, sometimes we are in a hurry, we click 1, 2, 3, and then we give up. Spend quality time. If it's possible for you to go through each and every one of them, it's part of the cost you need to bear to get to where you want to get to. Spend time, go through. You will notice that they are ready to fund your agribusiness. Just like a buyer looking for something to buy. So the investor is looking for an opportunity to invest. Would you be the one? So spend time, go through all those links. You find what you are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for those insightful thoughts you've shared with us on how SMEs can access funding for their businesses. There's this final question I'd love to take, but it's directed more to me than you, Benjamin, asking how UBA supports importers. And I was tending to say how UBA supports businesses. There are many ways or many things that we have in place to support businesses. So for you, typically as an importer, one of the critical things that we know or that you face or challenges that you face is when it comes to dealing with Forex issues. So for example, if you deal with in business on anywhere on the continent where UBA is present, you don't have to worry about how changing your money into dollars and going back to convert to those countries' currencies when you go there or when you are paying for your goods. This also supports government's agenda of not dollarizing the economy. So you can pay your business partners in cities here in UBA, and they get the equivalent in their currencies. Where you also need credit to bring in your goods and others, UBA is available to support you. We'll look at your business model, we'll look at the things that you are doing, we'll look at your receivables and a number of factors that we will definitely have to consider and look at, and then we'll see how we can support you with funding. And get to an UBA office close to you, or if you need to, you can contact us on social media, but you can also call this number, which is toll free on all networks, 0800 833 833. The number again is 0800 833 833. You call and speak to any of our consultants there. They will assist you and direct you on what things to do to access some support for your import business. So that's what I'll say on that question. So Benjamin, it's been very insightful over the last hour and a half. If we need more information or we need to get your assistance to ensure that we can get some of those funding areas that you gave to us or that you directed us to, seeing that you work with them and you also provide some consultancies for them, where can we reach you and how can we find you?
So I can give you my number and then email address. Which is better, email or number?
At pleasure. What you're comfortable with. I think the email will do so that
okay.
you can manage the
Exactly. So the email address is B for Ben, K for Kofi, Q for Quansah, and then C for Comfort, I for Isaac, M for Mama, A for Aunt. So it's BKQ Sima. The number 1 at gmail.com. So I'm repeating, B, K, Q, C for Comfort, I, M, A, 1 at gmail.com. And I'm on
very much,
email 24/7, so I'll be happy to attend to you and serve you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kofi, for that and for the email address. It's been very insightful for the last 90 minutes. Thanks for sharing with us how to access funding for SMEs, and to assure you that this would be uploaded onto our YouTube page, UBA Ghana YouTube page. When the session ends, you can also actually come back on the same link and watch the repeat version of the business series that we've had today. Watch this space. We're bringing you more exciting content, more exciting resource persons and topics to discuss for businesses. UBA Ghana Business Series is your answer to finding solutions to the challenges that confront your business. And on that note, we're signing off for today. Thanks for being with us, and God richly bless you. Have a very wonderful and productive working day.
Thank you.